thick hedge can look like exactly what you want around a secure home. It defines the boundary. It discourages someone from simply walking through, and if it's dense or thorny, it can feel like one more obstacle between the street and the house. But there's a point where that same hedge starts doing something for the person on the other side. It hides them. And that's the landscaping mistake that matters. Judging a security hedge only by how hard it is to cross without asking what it blocks you from seeing. Because a hedge can perform two very different jobs. It can be a barrier and it can be cover. Those sound similar when you're thinking about keeping people out. Physically, they're almost opposites. A barrier makes movement more difficult. Cover from view makes movement harder to observe. So imagine a dense hedge along the front of a property. From the street, it looks substantial. Someone can't just take a straight path across the yard without dealing with it. But now look at that same hedge from inside the house. Can you see the sidewalk? Can you see someone approaching the front walk? If a person moves behind that hedge, can you still track where they are? And what happens when they get close to a window or side entrance? That's where a feature that looked defensive from outside can create a blind area from inside. The mistake isn't simply planting a hedge, it's putting enough visual mass in a place where visibility matters. That distinction changes how you evaluate almost every piece of defensive landscaping. Instead of starting with the plant, start with the sightline. Stand inside the house and look outward. Look through the windows you actually use. Look toward the front approach, the driveway, gates, side passages, and exterior doors. Then ask a very simple question: where could a person disappear? That question matters because residential security isn't only about physically stopping movement, it's also about making an approach observable. If landscaping blocks the view from the house or creates a place where someone can remain concealed close to an entry point, you've traded one security function for another without necessarily realizing it. And the trade can be especially easy to miss because the hedge still looks defensive. It's still dense. It's still difficult to walk through. It may still define the property very effectively. Nothing about the plant itself has suddenly changed. Its position changed what that density does. Put a physical deterrent where you can maintain visibility around it, and those two functions can work together. Put a tall, opaque mass directly across an important sight line, and the same density can begin working against observation. This is why the useful distinction isn't really between security plants and non-security plants. It's between landscaping that impedes movement while preserving observation and landscaping that impedes your observation along with the movement. You can see the difference most clearly around the places where somebody would naturally approach the house. A front door is an obvious example. You don't want to discover that someone is near the entrance only when they step out from behind landscaping a few feet away. Windows create the same problem from the opposite direction. Vegetation that fills the view immediately outside a window may give you privacy, but privacy and security aren't automatically the same thing. Privacy reduces visibility. Sometimes that's exactly what you want. But if the same visual barrier also prevents you from seeing an approach to the house, there's a real trade-off to account for. And side yards can make the problem even less obvious. They're often narrow, they're less visible from the street, and homeowners naturally use landscaping to screen utilities, neighboring properties, or unattractive sections of the house. But every additional screen changes what can be seen from somewhere else. So the goal isn't to strip the property bare. A completely open yard isn't the lesson here, and hedges aren't inherently a security mistake. The goal is to decide deliberately where you want resistance and where you cannot afford concealment. One useful way to think about it is in layers. At the boundary, landscaping can help define where public space ends and private property begins. Closer to the house, however, visibility becomes increasingly important around approaches and openings. The closer vegetation gets to a door, window, or path someone could use to reach the structure, the more carefully you should examine what that vegetation hides. And that gives you a much better test than simply asking whether a plant looks defensive. Walk around the property during daylight and look at it from both directions. First, look from outside toward the house. Where does the landscaping create an obstacle? Then reverse it. Look from inside the house toward the same location. What disappeared? A hedge may look like an impressive barrier from the first perspective and an equally impressive hiding place from the second. That's the contradiction. The strongest looking landscaping isn't automatically the landscaping that gives you the strongest security. A useful barrier should make an unwanted approach more difficult without unnecessarily making that approach invisible. So before adding another dense hedge or removing one you already have, don't judge it by the plant alone. Judge the job it's doing in that exact location. What does it make harder to cross? What does it make harder to see? And if someone stood behind it, how close could they get before you knew they were there? That's the security hedge mistake, solving the barrier problem while accidentally creating a visibility problem. The hedge wasn't necessarily the wrong tool, it was doing the wrong job in the wrong place.